Now, the next step that we want to take here is not just opening that text file into an Excel document, but now we want to be able to copy the contents of that Excel document into our original Excel document that we started out inside of. So let's continue the procedure here. So I'm going to close my document that I opened up, that April 2015 from our previous lecture. Let's get rid of that. Don't need it right now. And let's get back into the Visual Basic window. Here we have it. And I'll maximize that back up for us. All right, so we've got our procedure import text file. We've created a variable called text file of type workbook. And we're setting that object now, text file, equal to this file path, and we've been able to open it up. All right, so now as we saw earlier, that was open. We had it there. It was open up inside of an Excel document. We had our original one in the background. Now our next step here is I want to grab the contents of that file, copy them, navigate back to the original Excel document, and paste them in. Now, these are just a couple of very simple lines of code here, nothing big. This is more of an advanced technique at importing external data, but it's a really simple procedure to accomplish inside your Visual Basic. So take a look. So now I want to get the contents of that open text file. So we'll get into our text file, which is that workbook, right? And we're going to get into the one sheet that workbook has. So we'll get to this workbook called text file. We're going to go into the sheets object, and we're going to get into the first worksheet in there. It's really the only worksheet inside of there. We're going to jump up to a specific range. We're going to go to range A1, which is where our data starts at. And we're going to get the current region. So this is going to jump out and grab all the data inside this list that we just opened up from this text file. And what are we going to do with it? What do we want to do with that current region, that big chunk of data? We want to copy it. So we're getting to the workbook text file. We're getting to the sheet number 1. We're going to get to range A1 of that sheet. We're going to copy the current region, the big chunk of data that was inside of that text file. I hit my enter key there. All right, now that we've got it copied, it's now sitting on the clipboard. What do we want to do with it now? Well, we want to go back to the original workbook now. So I'm going to get into the workbooks object here. And I want to get to the first workbook. The workbooks object is really an array, a collection of all open workbooks. This is like working with sheets or worksheets. So I'm inside the workbooks object. I'm going to go back to the first one. This is the first instance of Excel that was opened. We'll get to that, and I'm going to activate it. This way it comes to the foreground. This is going to be the active workbook that we have on our screen. So now, in this case, if we were to visually see this, this would then send that open workbook called text file to the background, and the original workbook would come to the foreground. All right, so now we've made it active. It's there in the foreground, and it's the active one you're working on. What do we want to do now? Well, I want to take the active sheet, spell that right, active sheet, whatever sheet we're currently on inside of that original workbook, and I want to paste. We're going to take the contents of the clipboard, right, and we're going to paste it into the original workbook on the active sheet. Now, one last piece of code here, and then we'll try this out. I now want to close that text file. So I'm going to get back into the text file, which is making reference to that April 2015 sales.txt file. And what do I want to do with it? I want to close it. There we have it. Very simple. We've got our procedure, got a variable that makes reference to this text file. We're now copying the contents of that text file that we've opened up, going back to the original workbook, workbook number 1, activating it, and pasting in the contents of the clipboard. And then, just to clean stuff up, we'll close the text file. And that's it. Let's try this out. So I'm going to get this off my screen here. Here's my original workbook called Book 1, and I'm going to run my macro. So let's go to my View tab. Let's go over to Macros. I'm going to view macros. There's my single procedure called Import Text File, and I'll go ahead and run it. All right. Now I've opened it up. There it is, April 2015. I can see the little marquee around it, so it is in copy mode. Now it's trying to close it right now, so I'm getting a prompt. And this is something we're going to clean up in a little bit. But it's saying, hey, you're about to close this workbook. You got a lot of information on the clipboard. Do you want to keep that? Well, I'm going to say no. I don't want to keep it. Closes it. Book 1 is back, and I've pasted the data in there from that text file. Really simple. Very efficient though, right? Saving us time on things that you would normally do manually. You've now created a procedure to do it for you. So try this out.